for him, but God had a plan. Joseph was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, unjustly sent to prison for doing the right thing, and he was forgotten, but God didn't forget about him. Although life was unjust and unfair for Joseph, he recognized that God put him in those terrible situations. He was purpose for his glory, for the saving of his people. In Genesis 45:5, Joseph tells his brothers, "Now be not grieved nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me, for God sent me before you to preserve life." Joseph knew God was at work in his life for such a time as this. Knowing this caused him to not have a bit of bitterness toward his brothers. He trusted God. But his brothers thought, since Joseph was prime minister, he might try to pay them back for all their wrongdoing. But in Genesis 50:19, 20 through 21, Joseph said unto them, "Fear not, for I not in the place of God?" I'm going to read that again. "For am I not in the place of God? But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive." Joseph chose to follow God's plan and forgive his brother. God has made us agents of free will, and we get to choose the direction that we want to go. Joshua 24:15 says, "And if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose ye this day whom you will serve. But for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Saints, that's a choice that you're going to have to make. You know, and it's best for you to make that choice sooner than later. God allows us freedom to make our own choices because we are human. Otherwise, we would be nothing but robots. You know, God given us a choice. You know, God just didn't want to manipulate us of doing anything. You know, he wanted us to show that we loved him by obeying him. You know, life comes easier when we acknowledge the unseen, invisible hand of God working behind scenes. You know, In everything, in every situation, whether good or bad, when you allow God to be in control, you experience more peace and less stress, joy in the place of sadness. We become helpers and not hinderers. Having an understanding of divine providence, God hand working behind the scenes, can keep us from having within us roots of bitterness. Bitterness is anger and disappointment at being treated unfairly. It holds resentment or a grudge. It would have been very easy for Joseph to have a little bit of bitterness after all he went through, but instead, he chose to trust God. He didn't harbor bitterness against anyone, not the baker, not the cupbearer, not even Potiphar's wife, who lied on him, especially his brothers, who threw him in the pit and sold him into slavery. He knew they intended to harm him, but God intended it all for good. Joseph chose to let go and let God. You know, our pastor says that quite often, for us to let go and let God. Hebrews 12, 14, 15 talks about the root of bitterness. It says, follow peace with all men and holiness without, shall no man see the Lord. Follow peace with all men and holiness without, shall no man see the Lord. Looking diligently, lest any man fall short of God's grace, lest any root of bitterness spring up, trouble you, and whereby many are defiled. Providence, or God's unseen hand working, can give us courage